How did we get here? Conor Benn has the biggest fight of his career coming up against Chris Eubank Jr, but has already had his share of ups and downs throughout his relatively short career. So this is the controversial rise of Conor Benn.
So Conor Benn, pretty much since he went pro, had a bit of expectations on him, obviously being the son of Nigel Benn. Historically, a lot of sons of famous professional boxers don't tend to do as great as their father because they already came up with the rich lifestyle. They've already been a little bit more privileged than their fathers were, being hungry, having nothing else, having no options but to box. Conor's upbringing was a little bit different, but he still had those expectations with that Benn last name, and up until this point, he's never had a loss as a professional, and he hasn't exactly fought the most elite caliber guys, but coming up through the ranks, he's had a couple of hiccups in the road. He got dropped against Cedric Peynaud back in 2017 in the first round, beat Sebastian Formella, beat Samuel Vargas, beat Chris Algieri, which is probably his biggest win to date still, and at this point, he was stopping a lot of guys at 147 at the welterweight division. Chris Algieri, Chris Van Heerden. He had a lot of potential, a lot of promise. People thought Conor Benn is the next up in that welterweight division and in the sport as a whole. A young guy, he is currently 28 years old, but since that run up until 2022 has kind of had a shaky rest of his career and was scheduled in 2022 to fight Chris Eubank Jr. to settle that rivalry of the Benn versus Eubank storyline. Obviously, their fathers fought twice. Nigel Benn in that second fight had a very close draw, which many people thought should have went to Benn. Chris Eubank won that first fight, so there was a lot of anticipation, a lot of build. Obviously, Conor Benn being a lot smaller of a guy than Chris Eubank Jr., they were going to meet at a catch weight. But Conor Benn ended up testing positive on 2 occasions for clomiphene, which put his fight against Chris Eubank Jr. in jeopardy. It got cancelled. He was suspended by the UK anti-doping agency, aka UCAD. And it's kind of just a mess of a situation, as then he was cleared by the NADP, and he ended up making a return to the ring in 2023.
Yeah, coming up in his career, Conor Benn was known for his more aggressive and relentless type of fighting style. Coming up in that UK scene, there was a lot of potential scene for Conor Benn, and many were hoping he could break out and be another star. However, that suspension was definitely a huge blow to not just his career, but also his character. Many people since the fact have not respected the fact that he popped, even though he cleared his name. There's still a big asterisk next to his career and his character as well. But after that 18-month hiatus, moving up in weight against Rodolfo Orozco, even though Benn didn't look the best coming back from suspension, he still did win by unanimous decision. He then returned next year against Peter Dobson, an undefeated fighter who was 16-0 before they fought. Conor Benn won that fight again by unanimous decision, and then we would finally see the fight reignite against Chris Eubank Jr. This is going to be the highly anticipated fight, massive UK fight. People have been waiting for so long, ever since they were pros, because of that family history, because of their fathers' rivalries, and as well since Conor Benn did pop, has built even more hype to this fight. And during this build-up, we've really seen both guys, but especially Conor Benn, be kind of nasty towards Chris Eubank. Obviously, there's big disdain there. And during that press conference towards the end, the massive scene of Chris Eubank slapping an egg on Conor Benn's face. And this build-up has had everything. It's going to be one of the most exciting fights we've seen in a long time, adding to the family tension. And this is going to be Conor Benn's first massive test, whether or not he can get through the solid veteran Chris Eubank Jr. And if he's able to win in class, it will definitely propel his stock quite a bit.
Yeah, coming back, Conor Benn went to 2 back-to-back decisions. Prior to that, he was getting stoppages pretty frequently and was kind of showed more power, but moving up in weight has looked a little bit more shaky, and definitely his name has kind of been tarnished from that failed test and the suspension. Even if he was cleared, he still had performance-enhancing drugs in his system, whether it was tainted supplements or whatever it was, eggs, and now he's going up in weight once again, this time to 160 pounds to fight Chris Eubank Jr., making that massive jump just to settle this rivalry, just to get this fight over the line. You gotta respect that from Conor Benn, taking on a big challenge here, but he's confident as ever to get the job done. And it's just been wild to see, because a couple years ago, Conor Benn was one of the hottest prospects in the world, undefeated young guy coming up in the welterweight division, knocking out everyone left and right. But since that suspension, we've kind of just seen a slow in his career. The questions about his ability, his level, where he's at, is he going to make it to that top level? Is he ever going to be a world champion? This Chris Eubank Jr. fight is going to be a very big one, and his toughest test today, as well as his biggest fight to date. And he's had the backing of Matchroom and Eddie Hearn for a while, promoting him and getting his name in the mix for a while now. So it's not like he doesn't have a bright future. If anything, Conor Benn, compared to Chris Eubank Jr., who's kind of more towards the end of his career, Conor Benn has a bright future. If he can get that momentum back, if he can start finishing fights in dominating fashion, if he could beat Chris Eubank Jr., that would put a statement on for the world of boxing, going up in weight, beating Chris Eubank, who's a pretty tough fighter. He's yet to challenge for a world title, so we don't know where his level quite is yet, but I think it's kind of unfair to just count out Conor Benn completely just because he has a failed test and because he hasn't looked completely world class in his last couple fights. He still has time. He's 28 years old. He's growing. It looks like he's improving, and he definitely still has potential.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be tough for Ben to try to win back. A lot of the audience, I think he did lose after he popped, but this would be a huge start here against Chris Eubank Jr. to win back some of the fans, especially if he's able to do it in impressive fashion. I'd say right now people are kind of split on who's going to win. A lot of people are favoring Chris Eubank for more experience that he has, as well as being a bigger guy, and he has fought better people on his resume like Liam Smith, and he has that experience against some of the top guys in which he could bring against the smaller Ben. But Conor Benn does have attributes of his own. He's still young, he's still hungry, looking to come back, looking to show that he can still make a huge career for himself after popping, after having these last two decisions. And he has that relentless style of pressing forward with his fast hands, the power he has within his combinations, with his brutal hooks, his different uppercuts. And even though Chris Eubank can be light on his feet, moving, using his footwork, Conor Benn does have decent footwork with his speed, and he could look to have some success in the pocket. But it definitely won't be an easy fight for him here. But something that might not be a good sign in all this build-up against Chris Eubank is how riled up and emotional it seems like Conor Benn has been. Especially we saw when he got hit with the egg, he was going crazy, erratic, trying to jump on Chris Eubank.
Conor, what? Okay? Is the eye okay?
Guys, is that
eye okay?
He steps like a b****.
What happened there at the face-off?
I'm not too sure, but that's the only shot he's getting off me, silly prick.
Are you?
Is it on site next time, Conor?
Of course it is. It's always on
What's
site.
going to happen Thursday? What's going to happen Thursday?
He's going to get chinned.
Do you think Ben Shalom knew about it, Conor?
It's a little slag. Thank you.
And even in their big interview with Piers Morgan, Conor Benn seemed to be showing a lot of emotion, which is not always a good thing coming into a fight. A lot of the time when you have an emotional fighter, he isn't able to fight calm, collected, and be disciplined to win the fight. And sometimes they can be over aggressive and get caught or get hurt. But we'll have to see if that plays a big impact in this upcoming fight. But let us know down below what you think of Conor Benn's career so far, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and click the video on the screen of the night Canelo Alvarez got humbled.